Welcome back to Let's Talking About Juggling. Today's topic is about the health benefits of juggling. When you juggle, you're not only burning calories, toning your body and strengthening your core, you're exercising your mind as well. It makes you smarter, sharpens your focus and concentration, and is an ultimate stress relief in addition to providing an expressive and creative outlet. In today's show, we will discuss juggling in the context of playfulness and physicality, the mind-body connection, and juggling as a meditative practice, as well as touch on social juggling. Please help me welcome to the panel today Olivier Sibai, who is a consumer researcher at Birkbeck College at the University of London. Welcome, Olivier.
Hello.
And Anthony, author of the book Pearls of Juggling, and Joseph Viatte, performer, juggler, and object manipulator. Welcome to the panel today, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Yes, Oliver. So I've been starting the panels with how do people start juggling? How did you start juggling then?
I was primary school. Just like Diabolo was a cool toy to play with in the playground, so I picked it up. And then my brother, who was elder, took me into, showed me like that you can do more with that. And so he took me actually to Rotterdam, the 2001 EJC, and that's when I really picked up all the props. But that was way before I became a researcher.
So yes, tell us about your research, because it's heavily involved with juggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love for you to share with the viewers what it is you've been doing over the last year or so.
The last year, yeah. So my research is about basically why jugglers juggle and how it affects their well-being, really. So about why they juggle, what I found is that juggling is really all about engaging in physical play. That is basically jugglers try and explore the physical possibilities of objects and bodies and the material world around them. So when I say exploring objects and their possibilities, it's taking take a ball, like the jugglers will take a ball and think, okay, this is a ball, what can I do with it? Which would be unusual. Could actually the ball roll on me? Could it like stay in the air longer than it should be? Or about exploring their bodies, it's, okay, this is the way I use my body normally, but could I actually stand on my hands, or could I stand on the hands of someone? And so it's really like seeing our bodies and the objects in general in a different light, exploring this. About well-being especially, which is this topic of today's session, what I found is that engaging in juggling and spinning and burning and all the circus activities is a way for people to anchor themselves in the physical world in which we live. And that's kind of really important because we live in a very dematerialized society today. We use computers for work, we don't do much, less and less physical work. For traveling, we use cars and public transportations. Home chores are made by microwaves and dishwashers, and so we use less and less our bodies. And so that creates a lot of ill-being and anxiety for people. So engaging in physical play allows people to reconnect with this physical world we live in and feel better. So if you want, there are four main ways in which juggling promotes well-being, really, I found in my research so far. One is when jugglers engage in technical juggling, so basically going for high numbers of ball, throw and catch, for example, or very difficult tricks. That's a way for them to challenge their physical abilities. So no way I could do that. And yet through training, actually, hey, I could do it. So it's really great for giving a feeling of empowerment and feeling of ability. It's a great self-esteem boost also. So that's something children like a lot, I think. Well, children who are maybe not very good at sports to feel better about themselves, for example. But there are other ways in which juggling can promote this well-being. If you think of juggling with other people, so social juggling, passing, for example, and all these silly games that jugglers can invent, it's a really nice way to connect with others without needing words. So if you think of when you pass with someone and it's working really, really well, and you've got this nice rhythm and flow and tap, tap of the clubs going between each other's hands, and that's really a way to feel that you are with that person, and that creates a strong bond. And if you struggle to connect with people sometimes, if you're isolated, that's a nice way to connect with
And
others.
actually, we do have a question coming up a bit later about that, so we'll touch on that with the rest of the panel.
Sure,
later
great.
as well.
Right. A third way, there are 4 ways I found. A third way is in which it promotes well-being is more about self-expression. So if you think of all the flow arts and the poi, and this is very much, it's very dancey, and so by exploring new ways of moving your body, it allows you to express who you are as a body. So it's about being able to express yourself beyond words, using your body. So that's another way in which it promotes self-expression. And then the fourth way, which is probably maybe the most extreme one, is when you really move towards becoming a performer. Juggling and circus performances are very often about creating a sense of magic. Not fantasy magic, real magic. It's happened now, here and now, and it shouldn't have happened, but it has. So the audience sees the magic, and the performer sees the magic too, somehow, of what he's just achieved in the eyes of the audience. And it creates a big high, and just magic happens. So we actually change the rules of the physical world we live in, and we can make whatever we want with that physical world. So that's another way in which it feels liberating.
So very, very, very interesting. And exactly what you've just said. I felt this last night at the open stage, and I think that other people must have felt this at last night's open stage, and probably a lot of the other shows here as well this week. There's absolutely a lot of magic being created here. Thank you very much, Oliver. Anthony.
Hello.
Well, you see. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How did you start juggling?
I started juggling when I was at university, and there were some friends that juggled in my apartment, and one day I just picked up the balls and it just started working. And for me, it was something I'd always thought was impossible to do, to juggle. And in a few seconds, all these limitations that I'd believed in, that other people said, you're not able to do this, you're not coordinated, you're not sporty, just fell away. So in that fraction of a second, I realized really that you could do anything if you put your mind to it.
And I've got, we've got a copy of your book. You've just released, or last year?
Yes, I released it last year, and this is already the second reprint of the book. And we changed the cover design a tiny bit.
Can you give us a very brief idea of what your book's
okay.
about?
Very briefly, the book is made to inspire jugglers, and it gives very practical suggestions and ideas, and just to play with, in the end, to give you instruments to do whatever you want to do with juggling.
So it's more an instructional?
It's instructional, but I'm not saying that this is a recipe book. It's I'm saying, like, I'll go through a little bit of the contents. Does it
come from your personal experiences?
It comes from 20 odd years of juggling, and nearly 20 years of yoga, and 3 years of physical theatre in Switzerland.
Lots of different elements coming together to produce a piece of work with lots of different advice for different people.
That's right. Because a lot of other disciplines, juggling has a very free structure to it, and I think that's really cool that it stays this free structure. So I'm not saying do this and don't do this. And for me, yoga has thousands of years of structure and wisdom in there, and we can use a lot of what it's teaching to make our juggling feel better and be better.
Because yoga is a big part of your juggling and yoga you combine together. Yoga is a big part of your life.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
This is also featured in your book, this combination of
I don't explicitly
disciplines.
talk about yoga in the book, but it's hidden in there, in the openness of what I'm suggesting people try out. And I think the idea is to give much more value to juggling as an art.
I think we'll come back and talk about that in the discussion, because we'll be looking at what the physicality and play, and I think that the combination of different things is definitely something that we'll talk about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Joseph, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How did you start juggling?
Well, I don't have like a big story or something, but
on this show. That's what it's all about.
but for some reason there were 3 balls in my room somewhere, and I tried because I saw my dad do a cascade, and he came in at some point. I was trying to do a cascade over the bed, and he said, "Hey, if you want to do circus lessons, we can sign you up." And I said, "No, I'm going to stop in 5 minutes." And 5 minutes later, here we are. No. Yeah, that's it. I really wonder what my intentions were at the beginning. I think it was a kind of personal challenge, or out of boredom or something. Not a heroic fairy tale.
But you're not predominantly a ball toss juggler, are you? You are what we call in the juggling world an object manipulator. Can you maybe explain that a little bit to people, or what it means to you to be an object manipulator, and what is the difference between the toss juggling, which we saw with the stroop waffles, as opposed to, yes, object manipulation?
Well, object manipulation, generally the common factor between all types of object manipulation that separates it from all types of toss juggling is that at any point you can stop what you're doing, freeze, and stay in that position. So you're not bound by laws like, gravity. Once the ball is in the air, it's going to fall down, and there's that. It's like a jump in midair, whereas object manipulation is a slow walk, and there's no limits to how slow you can go. There's some exceptions, of course, some little movements where you pass your hand over, but generally you can stop at any moment, which means that you can be extremely obsessed by the millimeters, and there's no physical limitations to how crazy clean you can want to be. And so if you have an obsessive mind, well, there's no end to it. The ball can always move less, and so you're doing your isolation, and it can move less, it can move less, it can move less. It's about dividing by 2 the amount of vibrations that are happening inside the ball, and you can always go smaller, 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 smaller. So that's the kind of, I think that's the main difference in mood. Then of course visually it's different, but there's a lot of graphic toss juggling, there's a lot of organic object manipulation.
I can imagine too that the practicing element of object manipulation is quite different to toss juggling, because you seem to have this. You feel like you're spending a lot of time for what appears to be a little effort, but in fact, it is a big effort if you know what it is that you've actually achieved once you've made that millimeter or 2 millimeters that you're looking for to make that change. Do you think that you spend more time practicing, or not more time, because jugglers will practice a lot, but do you spend a lot of time practicing, and how does that affect your the way that you connect with your juggling?
Well, initially I spent a lot of time practicing in front of a mirror, and you can do that infinitely. Typically, you can spend hours on the same movement, because it's less physical oftentimes. Since you can do it very slowly, you can change speed. You don't have to throw objects in the air. There's less mass of stuff, because you don't need 5 objects for your 2 hands. You only have 1 per hand or something. So you can do many hours. But eventually there's a point where hours of doing what you want to do well won't make you do it better than doing other things that indirectly help it. So at some point the mirror stops helping, and the trick itself, practicing the trick, it'll keep vibrating the same amount. And so you often see manipulators who learn a lot in the first 5 years, and then their amount, how clean they are, just stays for till the end of their lives.
Learning, you have to keep trying new things.
Yeah, I think eventually it's when the body is doing its best, and even the best object manipulator who knows the trick perfectly, if he's in a bad mind state, the object will start trembling, or he won't feel well, and so eventually you have to go look for other things, yoga, I think, and that'll help your manipulation more than practicing what you want to be showing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to go back to now, we opened it up to the panel. Oliver, you talked about playfulness and physicality. What do you think the importance of this is in today's society? Because you were talking about that we use, because we have a show about innovation and technology, which is an amazing show to put together because everyone's very excited about all the wonderful things that you can do with juggling and all the new technologies. But from what I was hearing you say is that actually some of these new technologies or the way that we live now is actually putting us into a different existence of not using our bodies, and therefore we have some suffering because of this. And so therefore, how important do you think it is for the playfulness now of and physicality that we bring some more focus back into using our bodies?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Technology, I think, has played a big role in taking us away from our body. Yes, I said the computers, the means of transportations, all these things which makes our lives easier, like liberate us from our body to take us into our minds. But yeah, that creates a lot of anxiety because we are our body at the same time. But it's maybe not as much the existence of technology itself, which might be an issue, but the way we use that technology to take us away from the physical world. So some people talk about us living in a techtopian world, which would this utopia of a technological world, which would take us in virtuality. So that's this kind of views we have of technology. But in juggling, as we see, I think this week, is used in a completely different way to, again, it's as a mean to help us, again, like create physical magic and take us back into the material world. This idea that we sort of like suffer from being disconnected from our bodies and the material world, I think is something which is gaining massive prominence these days. You can see, I'm all based around consumer research and consumption activities, and you can see a lot of consumption activities rising today, alongside juggling being one of them, showing how people are desperately looking for ways of reconnecting. So if you think of, yoga is one practice which has turned actually into a massive market in many countries. But you can also see all the crafting consumption, so where people do their own things. They'll do origami, they'll do pottery, they'll do their own things at home. DIY can be quite playful, and it's about using objects and making your own objects to reconnect with the physicality of things. Sports is a massive thing, and amateur sports is quite often done very playfully, and so and people do sports to feel more in their body and in their environment than before. And even video games which were taking us before away in virtual worlds, taking us into our bodies again. If you think of Kinect technology or augmented reality with Pokemon Go, which came out recently, all these things show that people are desperately wanting this reconnection.
Can I just pick up on your point about the yoga? Would you like to make a comment on that, Anthony, about the importance of bringing those two things together?
Yes, and before, I just wanted to say this thing about playfulness, if I can, is that in our normal life, we're always saying yes and no to everything. Yeah, yes to this, no to this, yes to this. And when you're in a playful state, you accept what comes to you as input for your game. And when I'm teaching, I always try and create a playful atmosphere, and it's difficult to get there, but we always manage to get there somehow. Yeah, and this morning I'm always amazed with what comes out. And this morning people were dropping and just picking up, and they themselves said they were amazed how their drops became part of the game. Then so this playful state. It's not doing yoga or doing juggling. It's feeling what you're doing, activating the sensorial part of your brain that brings about changes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Joseph, do you have a comment on that?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I don't need this one. Sorry. So I guess we're talking a little bit about this mind-body connection. Because I think some people think of this spiritualness, this meditation, but I think, as you've just alluded to, Oliver, I think it's becoming more predominant that people are like, okay, they're feeling it. And it's not necessarily about this, okay, it's not spirituality, it's not meditation, it's not people sitting there like this. It's actually something people are feeling, that there's some sort of disconnection. So what do you think's happening here? How do you think people are seeing this mind-body connection and what, yeah.
In juggling in particular, I think that was something which I found really interesting in the way my research has gone so far. It really gave me, when I talk about juggling, so it's object manipulations in general, throw, catch, roll, whatever you want, but it's object manipulations I'm thinking about. And what I found really interesting when I talk to people is that it seems that almost as if the objects people are manipulating is sort of like a bridge or a path, allowing them to make the connection between the mind and the body. So by focusing the mind on the object, it takes them back to their body. So it really is sort of like a transitory objects, helping people to feel that what was before disconnected is all becoming one and flowing, basically. There's a flow, constant flow between the two. So I find it really interesting how you've got that into juggling, but I think it got, again, in a lot of these sort of like physical, playful experiences, how we're focusing on an object outside to get back into our connections between our inside self and our outside self, which is embodied.
Unfortunately, we're running very close out of time, which has come up very quickly. I just wanted to talk quickly about juggling as a meditative practice. Joseph, do you have anything that, or actually I'll go to Anthony first on this because I know that we've spoken about this and...
Juggling involves entering into a passive state of concentration, a relaxed state of concentration, let's say. And so it's really working.
Is it about the terminology as well? Because you're talking about concentration and a relaxed state,
yes.
As opposed to meditative state, and I think words tend to put people off sometimes.
Sure. We can talk about meditative practices, but meditation, in the end, you do these practices to meditate, but it's not something you can do. You can sort out the groundwork. So in the end, you're entering into the present, and this is what the idea is, that we're not influenced by our memories, and we're not worried about our worries. And this is where juggling can really help, because it's so absorbing for the mind that it's very happy to be there, throwing and catching.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have run out of time today. Thank you very much for joining the panel today, Joseph, Oliver, and Anthony. Stay with us, and we're going to have our next Juggling Personality of the Day interview with Alexis Levion.